Hello, everyone. My name is Mike Valles, and welcome to our first ever AceCon. Actually, the first ending of an AceCon after a long weekend. We've made it. You are here. We are with each other. This is an event celebrating asexuality, what it means to be ace, our experiences, the stories, and how we can lift each other up. During this convention, we will be sharing deeply personal topics. Do be aware that we're talking about our own experiences. We do not speak for a whole community. We hope that by sharing our own part of it, then in aggregate, we can help out the rest of the community. What is true for us may not be true for you. We want to keep this place safe, and we'll be providing links to resources that you can utilize. We are not therapists or psychologists, but we do want to encourage you to listen and utilize those resources that we're sharing. We want to thank the producers, the moderators, the panelists for helping to put this together. And let's go in and meet the people that we're going to be having a conversation with. And I'm going to let each one introduce themselves, speak a little bit of who they are. And I'm going to start with Maria.
Hello, I'm trying to keep my cat child from eating literal trash.
Show the cat. Show the cat.
Come up here, buddy. He'll come up here eventually. Hello everyone. My name is Maria. You can also find me everywhere as Happy Capster. I am a variety streamer on Twitch. I also am a YouTube content creator, a TTRPG performer and content creator, co-founder of Goblin Society Games, a TTRPG company, voice actor, caffeinated person, and pet parent, as I've said before. I am also Puerto Rican, half Puerto Rican, and non-binary, and use they, she pronouns. And what else about me? But also have ADHD, and also I'm ace. I'm demisexual. Blah blah. Ta ta. All those. There's so many things. I am everything. I am an enigma wrapped in a void. That's me. Is that what you wanted and expected?
that is fantastic. It's this is more for the benefit of everyone, because we were talking about it and we're all friends. We met before and we've had a good relationship. So this is basically just a conversation amongst us that we had not had before. And all that said, I'm gonna turn this to Claudia, who I know a little bit.
Oh, where to start? Hi, I'm Claudia. I am a Mexican living in the US with my husband Mike, which is over there. I am biromantic, demisexual, ADHD, Mexican, woman. What else? What else am I? I also I've been a part of the TTRPG community. I've been part of actual plays of D&D in Spanish. I've done a lot of a bit of writing, game design, and I've run games in Spanish at conventions. I've done panels, and this is my second time talking about asexuality. The first time was last year, last December, at Pax Unplugged with Maria and Mike, and we had a beautiful panel about representation and tropes and everything, and it was beautiful, and I am so happy to be here. Also, I am sleep deprived, so I'm sorry if I look not great.
Thank you so much. And all that said, it was that panel last year where we got together with a bunch of people that ended up driving this. And I'm super happy that this happened, that this convention was put together. Thank you, Robo, for all the work that you put on it. And all the people involved are, there's a lot of seeds that I see of people that were last year talking about how it was so good to find a place where we could have our voice, and then all the audience was also like, why is there not more of this? Because this is great conversation. It lets me listen in and sometimes figure out things in a better way than if you just go through it till the point that you hit a wall and you're like, what is going on with my life? Why is this so difficult or different than what society paints? And in that convention, in that panel, Robo came up, because when we were talking about representation, I had to throw out the fact they were asking how to do good representation for asexuality on their games. And I was like, well, the first thing is you don't know anything to anybody and you don't need to represent the whole community. Just do you be a good person. And the best way to figure out how to do that is seeing people that are doing it out there. And Robo was literally the best of us thrown out there. And that's why we converge, because this is your house. Thank you for hosting this whole thing. And um, present yourself to all these people.
How dare you? How dare you? How very much dare you? It me, Robo Goblin. You can find me at TTRP Gifts on Twitch, Twitter, and Hive. I am a content creator, charity streamer, organizer. I make a lot of gifts, and frankly, I this whole thing started with AceCon. I was talking with Mike and Claudia, um, to because they told me that how much impact the panel that you had in PAX Unplug had with everybody. And I was jealous. I'm not gonna lie. I was very much jealous that I wasn't there to see you all shine in beautiful faces, seeing you shine. But I wanted to do something else, so I got inspired by Claudia right here, and I started AceCon because of her. That's the disclaimer I have. Take that, take that. So yeah, I wanted to have more representation with everybody, not just one table, but a lot of tables. And we have had 5 panels, well, 4 panels, and now this one. And it's been such a beautiful reception with everybody. So I'm gonna keep doing this because we need more representation, not just in the TTRPG community, but in every single media out there. But yeah, this whole thing started because I got inspired by Claudia.
Oh. And so, with that said, one of the things that we were talking about is the hobby that we love, the things that we do, and why we know each other's. Um, kind of converges a lot of things for us, like personality wise, like our identities. We find that role playing games are a great hobby and community where you can go in regardless of who you are and what portions of your identity are represented uh, from different places, right? So specifically for this panel, we're going to be talking about our experience as part of the Latine identity. That is to say there's a lot of different experiences and backgrounds and contexts, depending on your cultural heritage, your community, how we take things. So specifically for the realm of different cultural backgrounds that together make the Latine experience, that is something that we want to talk about because magic. Uh, and so one of the first things is talk to us about your origin story. Like, how did you get to figure out? How do you get to that point? And talk about how growing up Latine um, kind of played into it, if you would. And I think we can kind of turn around the order of things just to play a little bit with who's talking and when. So Jorge.
Yeah, that's me. Oh boy. Oh, by the way, I have ADHD and I am asexual. Just I wasn't clear on that. I didn't say that at the start. Um, but yeah. Oh boy, growing up, being ace. Um, so let's just say that growing up, I didn't have that many good. I, it's mostly because I grew up in a very toxic masculinity environment. If anybody knows or who grew up in Mexico, it's very toxic environment, toxic masculinity. And there's basically a thing where if you don't like a woman, well, if a man doesn't like a woman, he's gay. There's no in between. He's either gay or straight. That's that's all. There's no binary. That's the whole thing. Um, but yeah, um, growing up as a little kid, I was very shy. Um, but the thing is, I started having crushes on people, on girls my age that were in the same classroom as I was, and I knew I wasn't gay at that point. And then still growing up, and still figuring things out, I started going out on dates and having relationships with women, and it never, well, the conversation we once had about you know what goes up with sexuality and all that is that I don't enjoy that. I really don't. I can cuddle you with a person for hours and hours and watch a movie, and I guess the most emotional thing I can do is hold your hand and tell you you're beautiful to your face. But I don't want sex. That's the thing. I never wanted sex. And one of my exes told me that it's because I didn't love her enough that I didn't want sex. And I don't know, it kind of stuck with me for a long, long time. And then I stopped going out on dates, and then growing up, like, what is it, 7, 8 years ago, 10 years ago, wow, 2023. Yeah, 10 years ago, I went on another, well, started dating again and started going out with another person, and it was going great. It was really going great up until that point where how is this going to work out? And the thing that broke my heart was that she told me that is it my fault? And that just broke me. That was a really bad time. So I just stopped going out on dates, stopped searching for relationships from that point on, I thought I was broken. I thought that I didn't deserve love. I didn't deserve to be human. I didn't deserve to be with another human. And it wasn't until I was 30, and it happened during the pandemic, that I started. Um, it was 3 years ago. Well, yeah, 3 years ago. That I started wondering what happened to me. It happened during the pandemic. That I just started looking out. It was thankfully it was for. I'm really grateful for Twitter because a lot of people started. I just saw a retweet about a person that said they were asexual. I don't remember the name of the person. I'm so sorry, but I just saw the retweet, and I started. What is asexual? So I started reading and doing my own research, and I started searching my own feelings. And it wasn't until, well, March on 2020 that I realized that I was asexual, that I wasn't broken. It took me 30 years to figure out that I wasn't broken, but here we are now. I so yeah, that was the reason. I don't remember the name of the person that from that tweet, but I owe it all to you. So thank you. Um, but yeah, I realized that I wasn't broken, and that just made me super happy. But then something else was missing, like something else was missing, and it wasn't until I started searching for my feelings again. So, you know, getting to know me. That's a cute cat, by the way. That's a very cute cat. Um, that I realized that I was also bi romantic, but that just it's weird because it doesn't happen for me that often because it wasn't until like a year ago that I started having feelings for a guy, well, a male presenting person. And that just grew and grew. And I realized, well, maybe there's something there. And it's not that common that I get crushes on other male presenting figures. But looking back, I realized it was something there that although that I was looking to a guy and thinking he was cool or he was awesome for doing something that it might have been a crush, but I didn't know back then. So yeah, that it wasn't until I talked to my beautiful friend Jacob Plyke, who we all know as Duval, that I talked to him because he came out as biromantic too. And I talked to him, and that was a game changer. I have that conversation in my heart wherever I go because thanks to him, I realized I was biromantic too. And it's just weird because I know I can fall in love with guys now, or male presented figures, but and I realized that I'm not broken. So yeah, that's that's my origin story.
How about yours, Claudia?
Oh wow. Yeah. So I I don't know. I you I I must talk about my ADHD and my being demisexual because you cannot separate those things. Um, uh, Growing up in Mexico, it's hard when you're different, and I was different in so many ways. When I was it's common in Mexico to ask a kid, a 5, 6 year old kid, hey, do you have a girlfriend? Do you have a boyfriend? Which is weird because I don't know. I don't like that. Um, but when I was little, I will always say that I did not want a boyfriend. I wanted to go to college. I wanted to have a career and do things. And in my head, having a boyfriend at that young age was um, like a distraction because I knew I kids are not ready for a relationship in my head. Um, and I guess at some point I thought that I was broken because I was not like the other kids, but that was mostly because of my ADHD. And at some point, I guess I, please don't think bad of me, but I was um, a smart kid, but I struggled a lot because of my ADHD. and my sister was I think my sister is smarter than me, so she had better grades, and I started feeling special, like I was special, like I for me relationships were something special between two people that care for each other. And in Mexico we see like all men are the same and all women are the same, and you would hear a person complain that, oh, my girlfriend is so jealous, my girlfriend is this and is that, and I'm like, if you think everybody's the same, why don't you dump her and find another one? Because if we are all the same, what's the difference? But for me, I was special, and I did not want someone that I wanted someone that would think of me as special. So the first boyfriend I had at 16 was someone who also felt weird and out of place. And we connected and we talked, and I felt validated for the first time in my life, I guess. And so that relationship had uh, its things. Moving on, when I was 19, I met a guy, and content warning, abuse. He was emotionally abusive with me. That some things like don't go out with, don't have male friends and stuff like that. And I told him I did not want to have sex. I was not interested in sex at all. And he was like, "Oh, you'll change your mind someday," or something like that. And at some point, I started thinking that, I was 20, 21 at the time. And I was like, I guess I, I will have to have sex eventually because that's what normal people do, I guess. Although I felt I was not normal. So fortunately, I dumped the guy and never saw him again. And then I had a very long, very significant relationship with an autistic man. And he was, since he's autistic, he was different too. So we hit it off, and um, we had many happy years until um, we got our separate ways. But at some point, when my marriage with this person was, um, when I was in the realization that relationship was not working. Oh, wait, a few years before, I came across the word demisexual on the internet by, like, not by mistake, but it was so, I just came across with it. I was not even looking at it. I don't know what it was. And I was like, this is me. This is me. This is something that happens. This is not just me being weird or being broken or being alien. And that was, I don't know, it felt, I felt so validated, so like I don't know, like I was maybe not alone in the world. And I fully embraced this identity, and I was like, I, I've always been proud of that part of myself, even if um it I heard comments about, oh, so you want to be friends with someone before being their girlfriend, and I'm like, yeah, like you don't like, why do we see relationships like friends and partners at different? I For me, I always wanted to marry my best friend. And so anyway, moving on. I was like 28, 29, I think, when Mike and I first got together, and we got to talk, and he already knew he was biromantic, and I always kind of suspected that I was, but when you're neurodivergent, you I guess, for me, things like gender are weird. So I was like, I'm attracted to women because I feel comfortable with women, because in Mexico we have these gender roles really, really, how do you say, like,
Established.
yeah, right. And I feel really, really comfortable around women when I don't know, when in a room with strangers, I feel comfortable with women, because in Mexico you don't know, you learn to mistrust every man you meet because reasons. And um, I was talking to Miguel one day, and I was telling him about this cute teacher that I had when I was in Italy. She was from Sicily, I think. No, not Sicily, from Napoli. And she was really, really cute. She was about my age, and she didn't speak English at all, but she was a great teacher of Italian language. And I guess I had a crush on her, but I didn't know that. And I was telling Miguel how when I met her, I was like, oh, if I was a man, I would ask her out. And then I was like, oh, well, if I was a lesbian. And then I was like, wait a minute. And uh, if we have a friend, Mike and I, her nickname is Miss Paranoid. She streams on Twitch, video games and stuff. And one day she was talking to her chat about um, a girl she liked, and someone asked, "Oh, are you a lesbian?" And she was, "No, I'm bisexual." But at the time with this girl, we were good friends, but because I did not know I was allowed to like girls, and that stuck. And I was like, it's so obvious when you think about it, but I needed someone else to tell me I was allowed to like girls. And I was like, that's it. I am biromantic. I am allowed to like girls. And so now, now moving to the present, um, I started doing panels at conventions because I think it's important to talk about this, because learning casually about demisexuality kind of saved me. And the more we talk about this, the more people we can help, I think. And that's it. I think
I'm sorry. Thank you for that. I do want to talk about a couple of things that have been brought up. One is this binary sense of normalcy and not normal. That is culturally, as part of society in general, and even more so when you're Latine. Most of the countries or the culture that comes with second generation parents um, drives this very conservative, very religious idea of both roles and what is right and what is wrong. So we have these profiles of what is correct and what is not. So it's very difficult for us. I mean, culturally, if we go back to Mexico and we talk about the things that are part of our identity right now, it's a bit more of a wall of an issue to talk with like the general community, with our friends, with our family, because we have not had those conversations. One of the reasons why it's so important to have a convention like this and to have panels where we talk about it is because that's not just contained to other countries like that. In society, we believe that romance has a way and a path, and we see it in TV, we see it in movies. This is the standard. This is how people should function, and this is like the steps that you take to, through life. And you cannot standardize our life experience. There is so many colors out there of what can be, and thinking that there's only one way is just trying to uh, uh, put all that experience in a single road, and that's now not how it is. Now another thing that we were talking about is we're gonna get to that on another question because I don't want to kind of go into that road. But all that being said, let's go to Maria and talk about how she them found out about their identity.
Woof. So, mine has a big religion tag on it. So, a big that's going to come up a lot. But to start off with, I am third generation Puerto Rican. So my grandparents, they came from Puerto Rico to the States. And my father was the eldest born here, and all of that. And I come from the unique place of I didn't really grow up in my culture hardly at all, kind of intentionally because my extended family was not great. My parents really wanted to strive to make a space for me and my siblings that was not as there was a lot of like backstabbing and a lot of like talking, like being in each other's business all the time, kind of family aspect. And various kinds of like verbal and emotional abuse and stuff like that that they really wanted to strive to help us grow up in a space that was away from that. So it is a little bit of a thing that I am sad about, that I don't have specifically like that. I have moments of it, like when we would go and visit, and having a few conversations with my grandparents while they were still living. But most of my upbringing, it just specifically has to come from my my relationship with my father and my extended family and their ideas and everything like that. I'm mixed Puerto Rican, so my mother's side is white Swedish-ish. And so I had a very strange conglomeration of Puerto Rican and just very white all together. But there was this overlap of pretty conservative mindsets, specifically when it came to religion and gender roles and marital roles and those sorts of things. So I was AFAB, assigned female at birth, and growing up as a person with those specific roles, there are things that are expected, I guess. There's a lot of conversation about for example, children. That comes up a lot, particularly in religious settings. I can speak specifically for like Baptist Christian settings. There's a lot of talk about like, relationships and like this strange dichotomy of like, you want to make sure that you marry someone forever and ever and have a bunch of kids, but also you can't just like date and fool around and all that sort of stuff. So like sex was never allowed. And this like strange nebulous bubble of things that just were implied but never talked about, like sex. I never talked about it until I got into college. That's not a time to start discovering what in the world sex actually is. So it's not easy. But the kind of, I think a lot of my growing up is really in I grew up in a bubble, a very small, kind of naive bubble of like what identity is, what gender is, what sexuality is. I wasn't exposed to the queer culture until I got into college, and only just kind of until I got out of college. So it was a very slow and then cacophonous discovery of me personally and of the community at large. I didn't really, the concept of being demisexual didn't even come into my brain until after I had been married for probably close to 4.5, 5 years. Um, the idea of anything being different than the norm that I had grown up with, or being acceptable than the norm that I had grown up with, wasn't really like in my head. The journey, the process to that journey, really, it started with me exploring the fact that I was non-binary, that I never fit into this cis heteronormative framework that was gifted to me, that was thrust upon me when I was growing up. And I always thought it was just like, oh, I'm just not like, I'm just one of the guys. I'm just one of the dudes. I'm just one of the lads. I just wanted to hang out with them all the time. And it turns out, I mean, yes, but I can also not be and also am both at the same time. It's not that. But that was the most enlightening thing for me, is discovering that. And the one that really, really impacted me, though, was when I discovered what asexuality was, because much like reflected very much in what you were saying, Claudia, and what you were saying, Jorge, is this idea, especially when I got married, that I was like, what am I doing wrong? You know, because when I want to have, I want to have very good times with my spouse, with my partner, in every capacity, in all of them. And if there's this one little tiny section where I'm just like, you know, generally apathetic about most of the time, it felt like, oh, I'm not putting as much into this relationship, obviously, than this other person is. And so there must be something that I'm doing wrong. Why? It was a lot of internalized, like, well, why isn't this working right? Why doesn't this happen? Why doesn't this and this? When, like, in my brain, you know, doing research, all this sort of stuff, and like, I know how the human body's supposed to work, right? So when I came across the idea of, or the concept of ace and demi and like these descriptors, it was that realization of like, oh, actually, hang on, there isn't something wrong with me. There's something wrong with my perception of me. Like, I'm seeing myself as this broken and non-functional human being, and that's not the case. I just don't know yet how to navigate as this human being. I haven't fully understood it yet because I didn't think it was an option. And that was, I think, in 2018. So not long ago. It was like 2017, 2018 or so. And fully realizing that, and having a fantastic spouse who we've had, like, the best thing you can do if you are in a relationship, y'all, and you're an ace person, just talk a lot. You have to talk more than you think that you do, specifically about this. And especially when I mix in the fact that I have ADHD on top of that, which is a new discovery, it really, like, I empathize entirely with you, Claudia, about like those two things mixed together is very frustrating. It's so incredibly frustrating to have to combat it from two completely different sides. But like, I can't imagine a more supportive partner than the one that I have right now, who despite my general apathy is still here and wonderful and understanding. And just talk, just communicate, y'all. Communication is big. Big time.
Huge.
Huge.
I do want to touch on something. So when we're talking about asexuality in the general term, we got to understand, or we got to share the fact that there's a spectrum to it. And something that just, I was listening to some podcast this week, and they were talking about not this, but something else. But they were talking, when we talk about a spectrum, it's not like a level of it. It's not a, all of the factors on it are a label. It's not like you're asexual level 20 or asexual level 10. There's a lot of different factors on how um it plays into how you respond to it, how you interact with it. We're talking here, we're talking about demisexuality, talking about gray A's. We're talking about people that are repulsed by sex, do not want to hear about it, do not want to go into the details. So there's different things in it that participate in how we experience life and how we interact with other people. There's people that do not like physical contact because that is already stepping into that part of them. And then when you add to that another level of complexity by the intersection of other things like neurodivergence, like other identities that we have, uh, it becomes something a little bit more complex. So on our next topic, how does intersection play a role into your experience in being ace? How does it make it difficult? How does it sometimes, maybe in some situations, kind of mixes proper or helps identify things that you had already managed with another part of who you are?
Wait, wait,
And
wait, hang on.
yep,
Mike, you didn't tell us about your origin story.
well, the so there's a thing with something happened a couple of years ago where somebody we were having a conversation, and we were having a conversation about role-playing games, and the assumption was that I was male presenting cis, uh all sorts of identifiers, that I was like, I it kind of dawned on me with the fact that I don't go through a lot of difficulties that a lot of the identities that I have, because of how I present myself, how people perceive me more like. So for me, it's been a long trip. I've been known that I'm biromantic since I was really young. Um, I did have relationships and found that I could not figure out how to get everything that I needed from them. It was like an exercise of trying to figure out how to meet the mold of how to work in a relationship, um till a point that I got like, I'm not interested, like I'm not getting, like I can get what I need from our relationship with friendships. I got very tight friendships with people. um so for a moment I kind of stepped back and I said, I don't need all this things involved, because relationships can get very messy, and they can get very messy when you don't know about all the stuff going inside. So at one point when I was actually over here, like I had separated myself from Mexico, I came over to another country, started my life anew. And at that point I identified that I was like, unless there was a bridge already super strongly put in place, I did not have that interest to go and try to get with people, have like a sexual contact or romantic involvement. For a long time, I had concentrated on things that I enjoyed, and on other types of connections that kind of satisfied everything I needed, and I was very happy. That's that was all true and still is till the moment that I met Claudia, and we kind of connected in a lot of things. We had like a very similar upbringing, a lot of things that she had gone through reverb on me, and my experience with my family, with my own, and we connected, and that's when I was like, this is it, this is home, this is the relationship that I want. And then a lot of things came up where we also saw eye to eye on how we manage with all those things. So it's been a process, and it doesn't stop. It's, you continue to learn things about yourself. um I think, and it shouldn't come as a surprise, but in the last 3 years, with the pandemic and everything happening, a lot of people have been home, having a lot of conversations, having more contact rather than going through cycles. of like, let's go with friends, have some beers, have a good time, go back home. So it changed the conversation, and it changed how much you're exposed to other conversations, podcasts, streaming, other people that have lived an experience that give you more tools to understand, oh, maybe this is why this is happening to me, or I feel like that. And it doesn't sound weird now because I see a lot of people having that conversation in there, and all of those are just marking ticks of maybe maybe I need to go deeper into this. So for me, it's been a non-ending process. I try not to put myself in front of it. That's why I normally participate like a moderator, because we're all part of the experience. I'm never going to take that away from anyone. And I also want to share it because that happened when we had the panel. Somebody came up and said, thank you for being part of this, because I see you and I see like this dude, like this rough dude, and I will never like it. It makes me understand that regardless of how we present or are perceived, we can be part of this, and be going through all this stuff. And it's just not a question of um how we show ourselves to society or how society sees ourselves. Like all this is internal, as part of who we are. And I like being able to give voice to other people to talk about it, because when you go into that intersection of, if you're femme presenting, if you have neurodivergence, that gives a lot of more complexity into this, and it also helps a lot of more people than saying, I look like a dude, and people normally would see me, and you're like kind of white presenting and male presenting, and so you're not necessarily like somebody who would reflect on those difficulties. But yeah, that's kind of a little bit of it.
Can I just say something
Yeah.
real quick? Yeah, I really agree with that. I'm 6'2". I'm a very big Mexican, so I live in Mexico for years, 25 years of my life. So there's always this. Uh, People expect me to act a certain way because I'm really tall, and every one of the guys is, in between quotes, it's like, oh, she's so hot, right? Like, sure, she's really hot. And if you don't act a certain way, if you don't have the mask on that you're a guy's guy, people will call you names. People will bully you in all sorts of ways. So for like 25 years, I had this mask on that I was this dude, the guy's guy. So yeah, it's horrible to have a mask on to just exist and people accept you. So it's I just wanted to touch that because yeah, it kind of hit me that people see me as a big strong dude, um, as a cis guy. So they expect me to be a certain way. So, and and if I don't follow that mold, I am not part of them. I'm not part of society. I'm not part of anything. So it's a mask that we gotta keep on putting on to just be. So that's why I'm saying that it's a lot of toxic masculinity
Yep.
in in Mexico. Is está cabrón, but yeah.
I've always been very straightforward about all these things. Even as a younger, I was very like rough and tumble. Like if something like that came up, which it does a lot, I'd be very clear about not. But that has a social cost. Is the peer pressure of having to be that, and if you are not those things, it cuts you off from people. Some people would think, oh, this guy is kind of like has some ideas that are not what we think, or it's weird, or it's whatever. And that kind of cleans up a lot of the plate for a lot of people that you don't see eye to eye. But it also removes the opportunity to also share with them the experiences that maybe change them. Because I moved to Georgia. This is South United States, and I'll tell you, it's a different world to what I've been accustomed to. Even in the United States, like even as a young man, I would come over here. I normally over on the West Coast, and here I've had the experience to work with people that have a completely different background and a completely different set of priorities and how they think about things. And a lot of them, we've had the chance where they can turn around and see differently. And that's the same over here. Like when we're talking about our identities and being able to share that. Um, but really, the peer pressure of having to be something that you do not want to be able to have that space, it's a difficult effort, and specifically for Latin countries and Latin backgrounds, because again, like talking specifically about Mexico, I mean, even the language, like so much of the language is already like queer aggressive. Like we have words that we don't know and we continue to use. I mean, friends and people that I care for still use those words, and I'm like, do you understand what you're saying? Like that word means this. Like the word for hitting somebody over there is giving them like a queerish, like it's and you don't see it because you grew up with it. It's just normal because we made it normal, because we made the standard in society that those words are allowed to be used and that language is allowed to be used and that way of talking about things and people is allowed. And we grow as a society, we start learning about those things, and that's sometimes that's the rough and tumble that we need to go through to be able to change the way that we think about those things, or at least bring it up so somebody says, oh, I don't need to take those things, I don't need to be peer pressured into doing those things. But I completely get you, because yeah, it's something we need to live through. um I don't know if we're gonna have enough time to go through that, but let's start talking about like the intersection of our different identities and being ace. And
Well,
we'll
I kind of started on it a little bit, so I'll be really brief with mine. Um, I have like a what feels like 100 different intersections, but besides being mixed Puerto Rican, like half Puerto Rican, and coming from religion, like growing up in religion, as well as being newly neurodivergent, well, newly diagnosed neurodivergent, um, and being non-binary, like they it's you cannot separate all of these different things from yourself. And it's baffling because something that Claudia said that I really resonated with was the idea of both demisexuality and ADHD or neurodivergency in my case. Gender is not really like it's not really a thing in my brain. So like I identify as panromantic because to me the individual exterior matters less than the interior person. I will find people visually like appealing to look at and observe. I will say, oh, that's a nice body, but it does not matter what kind of person is in that body, if that makes sense. Because to me, a person is who they are inside, and what's outside, hopefully, is that what they want and reflects them and all that good stuff. It's like extra style points in my brain. But the I really liked what you said earlier, Mike, about how like you hear the term ace spectrum used a lot, which can be like, you know, as much as we don't want it to be, a binary thing of like you're either ace or you're like not. but it's more like an umbrella of like ace, and then all these things that are underneath it are all of these things, to varying different degrees. And I think like a big thing that isn't, speaking as myself, you don't have to have permission to change your mind at different points in time. As a demisexual person, my whims are very, as a demisexual and ADHD person, my whims are at the will of something that's not me. So it's okay to one day be very sexually forward with a person that you trust implicitly with everything, and the literally 10 minutes later be like, meh, I'm good, thanks, bye though. Like, it's okay to have those moments of like starkness, so long as you're having conversation, like really meaningful conversation about it, which is I will go back to forever and ever and always. But I think the to wrap up my stuff, and just to reiterate once again, it, no matter how many crossovers you have of your different genres, I think it is really important to not devalue any of them. Um, because just because I'm non-binary doesn't mean that I can't let that shine because I'm also ADHD. Like, it, all of these things are me, but it's also not only me, right? I'm so much more than just these little bits and labels and things that all just happen to mesh up together in a weird soup. So just allow yourself to be all of these things and recognize that they can sometimes be a little messy, but they're all still part of you.
Absolutely.
Claudia?
What was the question again?
The intersection of different parts of your identity, and in this case, like ADHD, being femme presenting, with the fact that you're race.
So I I think um well, for example, what Maria said, I I grew up in a home where I have a younger sister, and I never ever heard my parents say something like, you should or shouldn't because you're women. So for me, people is people, um, before they are men or women or whatever. And I, I think I've always considered myself a gender, but I identified as a woman because I have a uterus, but I also like nail polish and girly stuff. I don't know. It's weird. And I would say that I identify as biromantic. But I I I guess I want to say pan romantic, but as I said before, in Mexico we have these gender roles established, and uh, we know how men are supposed to be and women are supposed to be. So I feel attracted to women, or femme presenting individuals because I feel safer around them. So so that's that. And on my ADHD, I well, when you have ADHD, it impacts every aspect of your life. Everything has to do with ADHD. So I I always felt weird everywhere I went, and I had weird relationships with people. When I was growing up, I never I I was um like there was this incident in which one of my classmates, a female classmate, told me that I liked boy things, and I was worried that I was a lesbian, not because being a lesbian is wrong, but because I would not be accepted by other people. And I, at some point, I was worried that I was not feminine enough, that I was not like my female peers. And I also I feel safe around women I do not know, but I absolutely hate spending time with women in Mexico because I like, again, quote unquote, boys stuff. I really, really like video games. So growing up, I would spend a lot of time hanging out with the boys, and like Maria said, I've been called um dude, like, oh, you're half boy,
You're
like
one of the
you
dudes.
like
Yeah.
boy stuff, like oh, you like metal music, or you like video games, or you like um um boy toys for uh boys. So um so yeah, I it was really weird for me growing up. And at the same time, so Mexico is this country in which we are still in this debate of whether gay people should marry or not. So forget about hearing about trans people, intersex people, bisexual people. No, no, no. That's we are not there yet. So so I I would hang out with the boys, and since I have ADHD, I am completely oblivious uh, when a boy likes me. And I am really naive. And early in a relationship, Mike would say, um, sorry, Mike, but he would say something like, you need to watch out for yourself more. You need to defend yourself, stand up for yourself. And I was like, but I can't. And I'm like, I can't. I don't know how to explain this to you, but I can't. And then we found out that I had ADHD and a bunch of things. So, well, like Maria says, we talk and we talk and we talk, honest, open conversations. And I, I, mm, so I, I'm really naive and content warning. I've been abused. Um, I'm not going into details, but I, I, I was 25, and I was like, this should not have happened to me because I'm 25. I'm an adult, and since I have ADHD, I'm a couple of years behind in like um development, emotionally, mentally, etc. So I was more like I was still a teenager, I think, back then. And so I when that happened to me, like my whole world like changed, and I was like, this was not supposed to happen because I am demisexual. I don't like anything to do with a person I am not um attracted to, I don't feel safe with. So it's really difficult being ace and neurodivergent in Mexico because I was, growing up, I was bullied all the time, and I was targeted, and I had these friends who were really mean to me. And so it's been quite a ride. But finally, I met Mike, and Mike is um, this wonderful partner. He's very understanding. He he listens to me even when we when well we're very different. He's neurotypical, but he he tries to understand me, and I try to understand him. So I feel safer now, and I feel like at this point in my life I can be myself, and I'm not like an easy target for abusers anymore. So that's sad.
We're about to go to break. We're still gonna come back to Robo to talk about the intersectionality part of it. I do want to add a little bit that deconstructing ourselves is a huge part. Like Claudia has been here for 2 years and a half at this point. Um, So being in an environment where you can have these conversations, where you can meet people who are actually of these identities, and then go like on the last 2 years, we've had the opportunity to be in a lot of panels and talk to a lot of people that know their stuff, that do the work, that are out there trying to help out the community on everything related to all these neurodivergence, gender, sex orientation. Um, and that's not something that you have an environment right now back home. Like we got to understand where we come from, and a lot of this is kind of like inscribed on us, and it's a fight to deconstruct those portions of it and understand like why are they not helping us. And sometimes it's really hard too to have those conversations with people that you care for, but still exist and live in that bubble where all this topics and all this information is not something that we talk about every day. So again, that is why it's so important to talk about it. That is why it's so important to kind of drive those messages specifically to different communities that normally do not engage on these types of conversations, because it's needed. Um, if anybody out of this panel on the audience comes out with learning something about themselves or figuring out something that now makes a little bit more sense, that's where we want to go. It's all worth it. This whole weekend has been for something. So all that said, we will come back. We're gonna take a little break. We'll be here. What is it? 5 minutes? 10 minutes?
10 minutes.
We'll be back in 10 minutes to get back to Robo and talk about the intersection of our identities. Before we go and start talking about like TV, entertainment, and movies and how we are not represented there, we will see you in a minute. Welcome back, one and all, to the final length of the AceCon. We're back from a break. We were talking specifically about how the intersection of our identities plays into the our Ace identity, and we're coming back with the big host of the house, Robo Goblin, who's going to talk to us about
The intersectionality about my identity. Yes. Hi, it's me, Robo Goblin. You can find. No, wait, that's not it. I am.
I mean, they can find you.
That you can find me at no, but oh boy, I also am part of the ADHD gang. Hey. That's why I'm exactly. That's why I'm using my spinner right now because my anxiety is a little bit high and it helps me out. Um, I am also having a lot of dogs outside my apartment right now. And I don't know why, but okay. Yeah, exact. Oh, that's a good one. I love that one. Yeah, that's a really good fidget toy. Um, but yeah, I'm also ace. This is the thing. I don't consider myself as demisexual or gray sexual. So it's a mix sometimes, and sometimes it's not at all. So I just consider myself as asexual, just plain old asexual. I am not sex repulsed. I am sex positive. But it also depends on how I'm feeling at that moment. So it kind of varies a lot. Um, I am also biromantic. And when people tell me, "Oh, so that means that you're also panromantic," I'm like the gif of the person that is doing the lot of math and like formulas all around them, and like maybe, maybe I am. I don't know. I'm just trying to figure this one out, and then we'll go to the next one. As far as gender, that's a weird one. Also I use he/they pronouns, but I also consider myself as I don't care much about that. So it's kind of being in the sense of being agender. Is that the word? Agender? Agender? The one which starts with A and gender. Yeah.
Mhm.
It's just
It starts with A.
agender. So I'm using he, they pronouns right now, but that can change. I'm still figuring things out on myself. But yeah, that's also me. It's one of my labels anyway.
Okay. Well, we did before we went to break, we had a question from Mariani Cologne. And that kind of lines up with something else that was a topic that we're going to bring up. So I'm going to just put it together. Um, the question was, have you found representation of Latine asexual folks, whether in English or Spanish media? And I was going to ask specifically, because this is more like TV and this is general entertainment that we see everywhere. And that's part of the conversation from the get go, where society has this understanding of and that's changing, but it's changing in a direction, but it doesn't mean that we necessarily have representation of all the identities and all the themes and topics that we want. But in addition to that, I was going to add in the industry and the scene and the community of role playing games, um, have you seen changes that better give space and voice to specifically the asexual and Latine identity? So it's a little bit of a two-part question. First, in general entertainment, then in our community, games and the scene, which includes actual plays, looking for work, networking, doing things, and just meeting up with other people that share the same love for the hub. And we're gonna turn around and go to Maria.
Because I read this in chat, I was trying to rack my brain about if I have seen any ace representation in media at large that hasn't been like one, ace representation, two, Latine ace representation. I cannot think of anything. The closest I got was the amazing portrayal of Jim Jimenez by Vico Ortiz, non-binary icon of the century, who is also Puerto Rican and amazing. But that's only like, for me, I was like, oh, that's non-binary. That's hello. Hello, you're here. You're Puerto Rican. It's here. We're here. I cannot think in like the media at large of any ace representation. Now, my memory is also not the best, so I may have and just don't remember it. But that's also something like, if it was memorable to me, like Jim's representation of non-binary person in the show Our Flag Means Death, that it obviously it's stuck. It's obviously impactful. So I don't know. I hope that one of you has one, because otherwise I'm gonna be sad.
How about in the community?
Oh, in the community at large. Okay, so this is an interesting one, because it wasn't really until you, Mike, asked me to be on that Latine panel at PAX U in 2021. 2020? 21.
2021. Yeah.
That's what it is. Over a year and some change ago.
Mhm.
That I was really connected with any other Latino or Hispanic people in the community. I with the exception of like Robo and Lonzo, I think I had connected with the two of you prior to that. But I hadn't seen any except for myself in the community for like 2 or 3 years. Because I joined the online TTRPG community around 2019 or so. And it even took me a while to be comfortable in that, like, the aspect of, oh, I can actually play Puerto Rican characters. It took a really long time for me to myself get past my own prejudice of like, oh, well, you're only like half Hispanic and you didn't even grow up in the culture. Like, are you actually like Puerto Rican? Like, yes, yes, I am.
Mhm.
And I've really embraced it, especially this year. One of my characters right now in a Delta Green game that I'm streaming, Yen Moreno, is non-binary Puerto Rican. Like, just is. And it it's been very comforting over the past year or so, with places like Cafe Cultivar, which is a fantastic community of Hispanic and Latine streamers and TTRPG players and all of that. Seeing fantastic Latine people like D'Angelo come out with his beautiful Emerald Templars game. I've been seeing it so much more in the last year, I'll say. 2022 was like, I kept seeing us pop up everywhere, but I think it's because I was in the circles. So it would be very interesting for me to see what it would look like as someone who's not already connected with all these beautiful people, and see
Mhm.
like, I see us doing big things, and I hope other people see us doing big things too, because it's important to be seen in these spaces. And I think the trend is starting to um be there, but I want more now.
Yes.
Little me would have loved to have seen someone of a uh, a powerful Latine non-binary person who was confident in themselves and comfortable with themselves, like Vico. Like, growing up, I would have loved to see that, because it would have made it so much easier and less complicated
Mhm,
as the
mhm.
years went on.
Absolutely. Um, how about yourself, Claudia?
I, I, I I've been trying to think about it, but first of all, ADHD. I don't watch movies or series. I don't listen to like trending music. I have very specific um interests, and I never talked about I I never talked about my asexuality like openly with other people until last year's panel. And we had this amazing table, and we had a packed room. And but I as I said before, in Mexico we're still trying to figure out like things that should be settled by now. And for those of you who don't know, Spanish is a very binary language. We do not have a gender neutral pronoun, and it's it's so I do not know a non-binary Mexican person that I know of. I think so. Um, I think they are absolutely out there, but it's difficult to like come out of the closet when you live in Mexico. And for example, I if I would say that there's a support group, it's because of other ace people. In my experience, I've seen other people in Twitter that um put in their bio, I am ace, I am biromantic, I am whatever. And I feel like, so this is what we have to do. If you see someone else come out openly and say, I'm trans, I'm gay, I'm whatever, then you feel confident in doing yourself. So I try to be open about myself. In in order to find other people who identify with the same things I do. But I think in media we still need, like, we still need ace plain ace representation for starters. So forget about Latino representation for now. That's like a whole different step, I think.
Okay. Oh, you're Robo.
So I remember people telling me about Owl House. It's a animated show, and
Mhm.
there's supposed to be one of the characters. One of the main characters is Ace, and they explicitly say that I'm not interested in whatever. But they're also supposed to be Latina, so they speak Spanish a lot. I've never seen the show, but I'm now considering doing like a watch party
Checking
with
it out.
everybody to check it out because that sounds incredible. Um, Also, Los Spookies. I don't know if anybody has seen that show. That's an amazing show on HBO. And the main character is everybody in the show is Latino. Uh, eh, eh, I think everybody. Maybe a couple of. Fred Armisen is in that show. And it's kind of absurd, but it's also people just doing. And they do like this shows, like paranormal type shows to parties, I guess.
Mhm.
So the main character is having it's not explicitly said, but he when you look at him is, yeah, you're Ace, you're totally Ace. So Los Spookies is probably one of those shows that I should finish because I only watched the first season, but there's another season. But yeah, those are the two. The two characters that I think I know. Um, there's also somebody in the other panels, but he they're not Latine. And they show a special clip of where the person from X Files is there. Gillian Anderson.
Gillian Anderson. Mhm.
Yeah, uh, where it's one of the first clips I've ever seen where I was like openly sobbing because the character the went to see Gillian Anderson's character to because I think she's a therapist, sex.
It's a sex therapist. Yep.
Yeah, so
This is Sex Education, the
sex
show, right?
education. Yes, that show. But I've only seen the clip of that, and well, the character thinks they're broken. And Gillian Anderson, no, you're not broken, you're just different, and explains a whole deal of being asexual. So that's another one of the big things I've ever seen as an asexual. Um, but as far as the TTRPG community, I haven't seen a lot. I play all my characters as asexual characters.
Mhm.
Um, Unconsciously, I thought of that until I came out as asexual because I didn't know that that was a thing, that was a concept. So unconsciously, I've always played my characters as being asexual. They're not interested in sex at all. They're interested in saving the world or whatever.
And
Well,
to jump in a little bit on that, because it's very important that you bring it up because representation sometimes is just being on the room and existing while being asexual or existing while being Latine.
mm-hmm,
It doesn't necessarily mean that every story needs to focus directly on it. I mean, it's good that we have a mix of different things, because sometimes you do want to see stories that orbit it. But when we were talking on that panel specifically about representation, that's what I was saying. I was just saying, Robo is not gonna come out and just be like, I'm Latine, I'm this, I'm he's gonna play it in as part of what he does, and his characters are an extension of all the good things that he brings to the table, and you just see it live. That portion of Robo representing on the characters, and that's part of what, because jumping to that, the old house does have Lily Clowthorne. SpongeBob for a while was brought up as a huge icon, because it's played out as being asexual, and also like in general, like pan romantic. And BoJack Horseman has characters like Todd Chavez and Yolanda Buenaventura, uh, which have a representation of asexuality, but not necessarily as like a central theme to the character. It's just something that comes up here and there, and then it's just like part of it, which is okay. But I do believe that uh, in the Latine and asexual intersection, we're already fighting just to be there in the table, being Latine. Then adding a next level of complexity to it is like it's just Latine. And also, there's a whole new other box of things that we're gonna have to manage through this character. You normally see wide representation of other identities because it's felt like it's too much, and it's not. Like, we are here and we're a mix of, we're the sum of a lot of different things, and none of them independently make us who we are, but the sum of it does play into who we are and who we become throughout all that. So I think one of the biggest difficulties that we have is specifically that if Latines are not represented in general, then Latine representation in asexuality is also going to be behind. And also, on top of it, we do not have these conversations specifically on asexuality. We are actually fighting the fight in different fronts, and it's possible we can have a lot of different conversations at the same time. But asexuality is not something that comes up too much. It was a surprise for us when we were talking about the panel and the turnout and all the people that were there, and that drove us to say, like, there's a lot of us out there. We can have these conversations. There's people that need to be able to get to them in different places and different panels next year. Let's do it, and here we are. So that's a win. That's a major win. And the thing is not letting on, is being present, going and doing our things, and at the same time bringing the boys and talking about these pieces of who we are, so that other people can see themselves represented and reflected on the stories of others, that might help their own story to go in a brighter path than what we had to go through, because we never had all those conversations.
Yeah.
Um,
As far as asexual representation, but Jordan mentioned to me like a couple of weeks ago that one of the characters of Critical Role was Ace, a romantic caduceus clay.
mhm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
uh, they're supposed to be, or the person that made caduceus clay said that they were Ace Arrow, I think.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So that's a big step. I mean, it's
Mm-hmm.
Critical Role, like the biggest show for the TTRPG community.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a big step for us. Like, and so I see that as a big W. There should be more, of course. There should be many persons exploring asexuality and, just being ace. And
Yep.
there should be more, as that's another thing. There should be more people, not robots. They're like, what I mean as robots, as people who don't feel emotions, that so they can't feel love, or they're not interested in sex, so therefore they're ace. So there should be like another level of people, actual people who have feelings, who are happy of being there, or sad, or whatever. But there should be more representation about a whole myriad of characters.
I,
Can I say something?
yeah, go ahead.
I of a couple of years ago, I came. I YouTube recommended me a video. It was a person who had a YouTube channel about asexuality, and this video was about a episode of Doctor House in which he had a patient who was a man who came to him and said, "I am asexual because my weenie doesn't work," and his wife was also ace, and so they never had sex, and they were trying to fix that. And Dr. House said, "There's no such thing as an ace person." And in the end, turns out he had some medical uh, issue, and he fixed him, and he was like, "Oh, so I'm not ace." And his wife was like, "So I lied about being ace. I just didn't want you to feel bad about it." And this person in the YouTube channel was like, "No, this is there's
It's like the
so many
opposite kind of representation
Yeah, this
that
is
like
yeah.
because I think that's the loudest kind of thing that I think is shown in media and online and stuff like that, is the fact that like it perpetuates this idea that like there's a normalcy of like everybody has sex, everybody wants sex, everybody XYZ, and perpetuated by things like that of like, oh, no, you are just broken, we'll just do a little thing and then you'll be all better. Like, it's so frustrating. It makes me so angry.
Yeah, like media has perpetuated this idea that asexuality is something that should be fixed, and that's like, really, really. So
There is a
anyway,
difference. I do want to clarify, because there is a difference between like um things brought about by trauma or other experiences that then influence you in ways, and if those traumas get healed then things change. But again, you're never locked into a sexuality, you're never locked into a thing. If you changed, you can change. Like, it's
Yep.
it's not it's not like if tomorrow I went and had this groundbreaking realization that something was different in me and therefore it affected my sexuality and I was no longer ace, that's fine. Then I'm just no longer ace, but it's something, it media portraying it as something that has to be fixed, that it has to be related to something medical or traumatic or some XYZ other thing, is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.
yeah, it's interesting that you say that. I well, let's just say that I had a childhood trauma, so I'm not gonna go into detail about that. But that is something that I've always had, like being asexual. I mean, that is something I always had. Like, I wasn't interested in the girls that wanted to, do that thing, or boys that just wanted to talk constantly about, you know. So I don't. That's just something that we need to take off the band-aid off, and just, be people. Oh, are we
Oh,
having? It just froze
yeah.
for a second, and
Just for a
then,
little bit. There was a hiccup. Yep. No,
okay.
you're good.
Am I
We're
good
here,
now?
we're here, we promise.
Yeah.
Am I good? Am I
Yeah.
good?
Yeah, you're
Okay.
good now.
Oh, thank goodness. Everybody froze for a second. I was like, oh. But yeah, so there just needs to be more representation about everything.
I want to go back a bit, if that's okay. At the end of the panel of last year, after the panel, we were in the hallway talking to the attendees, and Maria was talking to a group of kids, I think, and they were like, "Oh, tell us about non-binary people, because we want to learn and we want to learn how to represent them in our games." And Maria was like, "Oh well, we're just like regular people, we're people like everyone else." And one of I think it was a girl, and she was like, she asked the question in the panel, and she was like, "I think I am ace, but I'm not sure, and I don't think I fit all the check marks." And after the panel, I approached her and I was like, "So, being ace, like you can be ace and I can be ace, and we can be completely different people." And we were talking about being ace and being non-binary, and Maria and I told them, "You, you are who you are. You don't choose who you are. You choose how to explain to others who you are, and that can change with time."
um we're talking right now a little bit of that, those difficulties of representation and everything. I'm gonna, there's another question we'll go through, but first, uh Jordan Lee is asking, how can communities better support us, whether this is in TTRPGs, video games, and other like hobbies that we go into. That's gonna be more of a, like, if you have something, jump in and let's talk about it. So Maria, let's go.
I got one that feels really obvious, and it could just be because it's my neurodivergent spicy brain that thinks it's obvious. Put us there. I mean, like,
Great start.
that's like, I particularly, I'm thinking about like the video game industry and like games and things. Specifically, video games came into my mind first, but like, again, seeing Jim on Our Flag Means Death was last year was, I almost cried because it was so meaningful and impactful to not only have a non-binary person, but have a Latine non-binary person be represented in such a positive and accepted light. Um, and that's like, it feels like it's an easy and a hard thing of, well, just, have Latine and ace people around. It's very easy to say, and in theory, it should be easy to do, and yet, there's a strange lack of representation. And if this weekend has proven anything, it's that there's a lot of ace people um around. There's a lot of Latine ace people around. And uh it's it I don't know exactly what the full laid out 10-year plan would be, but I do know one of the first steps is just have them in your circles, have them in conversations, include them in visible ways so that other individuals who are Latine or ace or questioning or any of these things can see, oh, this is a person that is being showcased for this, that, or the other. Oh, they're also these things that I was questioning about myself. um it's just making it's one of those things that I wanted to really strive for, especially after that first panel that you asked me to be on, Mike, of that being the Vico of my time, you know, and being the person that people can see, like, oh, that's a non-binary person who is uh being you know, a spokesperson. That's a Latine person who is being, you know, loud and outspoken about certain things. And you know, that's a queer person who's also neurodiverse. It's all of these things that I never want to be known for, like a thing. But if I am known for a thing, it is being loud and supportive of all of the things that I am and all of the people that are under those things. So that's a long way of saying just put us in.
And I think very important, also not just like audience facing or audience participating portions of it. We need people that are we need representation in places of power. Like if you run a game, or if you create content, or if you are building a video game, you want people in there that look at it, and while it's being built up, they're like, wait a minute, these are all options for romance. Why? Like, why is there not an open way so that this is not a necessary theme that needs to be addressed, when not everyone is going to go for all those things? And the only way that you can get there is getting people that are ace, that are included on that. Like we need to be part of the infrastructure so that all these come up when they need to come up, and not later on. A lot of the process, there's been a lot of conversation in the last month about like the process of creating books and content and all this stuff, about like questionable content making it to books, and etc. And a lot of that happens because you don't have people of those identities in there, because they will bring it up. They would say, this is not okay, this is not cool. And it doesn't need to go all the way to be out, or to get a culture consulting firm or person to look at it, because it's already going to be cooked then. So definitely, not just bring us in to talk or play those things. It's make them part of who you are as a video game creator, or as a TTRPG content publisher. Um, Anybody else wants to jump in before we go to
Yeah,
the next one?
me, I guess.
Let's go.
So this is very obvious, but when I started playing TTRPGs, we did not have these fancy things called the X card and views and lines and everything. And I think it's very, very important to have a session zero and talk, because when you are like a normal person, quote unquote, you it's easy to miss uh, if something is going to make someone else feel uncomfortable. So if you're white and ADHD, maybe you will ask your friends, "Hey, can we take a break every uh, a few hours or something like that?" But when you're black, trans, gay, disabled, neurodivergent, etc., you have more and more of these things that people do not see, and uh, it's it's I think sensitive as privileged person to stop and ask someone else what they need. So in my case, would be, please, if I play a bard, do not assume I am going to be this vedette going around seducing everyone. Maybe I'm going to be a very ace bard, and that's okay. So please give me a chance to talk about the things I feel comfortable with, and that's it.
Good. Anybody else want to jump in? Add to that?
Yeah. uh, just hire us. um,
Yeah.
we're here, and like Mike said, in this convention that we met a lot of asexual people, and it's a spectrum, because there was a lot of people from the whole spectrum here, and they were all sharing their experiences. And that could be us. I mean, if you give us a chance, you can just, oh, did something happen?
No, you're good. You're good. It was just the camera froze for a second, but you're good now. We heard you, so you can continue.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. But yes, just invite us to play. Um, make seat for us. And like Mariano was saying, not just during Hispanic Heritage Month. I mean, basically, during Hispanic Heritage Month, nothing happens. Basically, there's like little events here and there. The only ones that I see continually supporting us, and it's because it's from us, it's Latinos in Gaming. Cafe Cultivar is another great streamer group. Sorry about that, folks. My computer was like, you've been streaming a lot, so I just want to shut down a little bit. Thank
Just need
you.
a little nap.
A little, yeah, I'm
Just
like,
gonna lay
no.
down for a second.
Yeah, a little nap. Sorry, no, thank you. But yeah, I don't know. Mike, were you going to say something?
Well, you actually did a really good segue, and I was gonna direct us to the last of the topics that we had, which is we talked a little bit about like the difficulties on representation and how can like businesses and the scene and the industry, be it video games or TTRPGs or conventions, um, but let's talk about the good places, which you started on. What are good spaces, places, and people that help you understand yourself and your asexuality and that give you like a place to feel safe and to explore this? Um, and I think we can just reconnect with what you were saying, Raul, and just go with you again. You're muted.
Son of a. It's like they okay.
We're almost there. Don't
We're
You
almost
got it.
there.
You got it. You got it.
I got it.
don't
I got
don't
this.
let an F bomb out. This is not the time.
Son of a. Yeah. God. Okay. So, what was it? Cafe Cultivar is a great place. Latinos in Gaming. They
Absolutely.
always will support
Yep.
any of the Latino community. Um, uh, I personally love Eugenio Vargas, DM Jazzy Hands. His streams are incredible.
Beautiful, beautiful human being.
In the streaming community, Maria, right here, super talented, super funny, super cool, incredibly awesome, and like the commentary they do on every of the games is like chef's kiss. Like I honestly think Maria is one of the best streamers in the whole world because
Oh,
they're incredibly awesome.
how dare you say this in your own house?
Yeah.
How dare you?
It's my house. I can be nice to you. But yeah, I don't know. I might be forgetting a lot of people, but yes, yeah.
I mean, feel free to chime in and jump in if you remember somebody
Okay.
particularly.
All right.
I mean, this is we're about there where we're shooting from the hip at this point.
Mhm.
Claudia, some places, people, and spaces where you feel like there's good conversation going on about like asexuality and representation for Latines.
Oh, oh, oh.
You're good. You're good. We can hear
Okay.
you.
uh, right here at Hubble, at Robo Goblins, I think, and I, I, I don't. I feel really comfortable with the TTRPG community here in the US. Not so much in Mexico. I'm sorry about that. And I was approached by a couple of people last year, and they were like, "Oh, your panel was awesome. How could we like participate or help or support?" And I was like, April Reagan. She was like, "We should do like a meet up or something like that
Mhm.
next year." And I was like, so I think we can start creating those spaces.
Yes.
Space,
Space.
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 That's it. Ace in
yeah.
Space, y'all, coming
Ace
in
in- yeah.
2025.
Um, I do want to say that Duval said it best. If the spaces are not made, we're gonna make them.
Yep.
We will continue to push forward. We will get to whatever place will give us a place to shout out and to speak with our voice, because that's important. It's relevant. We were very happy with what we did last year, and one of the things was, let's show this and let's take it back and say, this is the response that we got. You need to have more of this, and it doesn't need to be through us. There's a lot of people in here, and there's a lot of conversations that can be driven from it. Um, we have worked very hard to kind of be there in conventions in the circuit, to participate in seminars and panels and running games and having representation of all these things. So um, it's also up to us to uh, take those steps, to open those doors, to pull people in and say, hey, you can be here, you can participate, you can take something home from this, and hopefully you can leave something in the people that you are collaborating with, so that more things, a network expands. It does not take anything away from your flame to share it with somebody else so that they can also sprout their own light. So that's what we need to do. It's really important that we continue to do it. I do have a lot of things for conventions like PAX, Gen Con, that are opening the doors and saying, this is we have spots, we have space. We definitely need to do the work to get to that point where they can go up to you and say, hey, what you got, what how can we help? So putting that work in has been difficult, but at this point, we have we have found that they are very responsive to giving us those opportunities. So seek them out. We're there with you. We want to be on those panels. We want to sit in some of them, see what we are talking about, like via community, like really be present and participate in creating this, and not just limited to in person. We're still in a pandemic. So a lot of options are out there. Participate in the streams that talk about these topics and these themes. We know it's a hard life out there with the algorithm. We need to feed it. We need to go there, participate, like, share those things, because that way we can have more people be able to be on those conversations, much needed conversations.
I also want to
Yep.
mention. Sorry, Maria.
No, you go.
Before Jordan kills me because I forget that Ampistrano is all Ace folks. It's a D&D play with Ace folks, and it's an amazing show. But yeah, go Marie.
I was gonna absolutely piggyback and echo off of Cafe Cultivar and Latinos in Gaming, because the support that I've gotten, I have felt more seen in Cafe Cultivar than I have in a lot of other spaces, just in general, which is so heartwarming to have found a space like that. And that's not to say that it's not a perfect space, because we're all people and we're not perfect, but it's striving to be an incredibly inclusive and wonderful and welcoming space, particularly for people who are Latine or Hispanic, in whatever, mix of mash of all those different things as well. Big shout out to Ashlina, who is the main founder and like spearhead for that project. She's incredible. Her space is incredibly welcoming and wonderful. Another shout out is Ed, I Geeked Out. Fantastic streamer, I believe Mexican non-binary streamer as well. Super loving and welcoming community. And then also to shout out specifically about like Ace representation. I think canonically also outcast and outclassed. I'm pretty sure our Pathfinder 2e campaign on Waffles Maple Syrup, I'm pretty sure all of us are canonically ace or somewhere on that spectrum in character at the very least. Or questioning in some way or another, which is very interesting and something that we've realized in and out of like discussions and stuff like that. If anyone from that show is watching, please let me know if I spoke out of turn, but I'm pretty sure that that's correct. I'm pretty confident. But it's there are some fantastic and beautiful spaces that they're it very much like what you were saying, Mike. There are beacons and bonfires lit around of Latine and queer spaces, specifically with like ace spaces that are ready to start a bigger fire. Like it is the very simple idea of like one spark can start an entire forest fire. It's the same thing here, except we don't have to. We're not starting with a spark. We've got the the whole entire fires here. Just put us in a space and let us grow, and we'll do it and we'll explode.
Absolutely.
So it's just y'all are lovely. Oh wait, another place, because I would be remiss to not say it. TTRP GIFs, Robo Goblin. You are one of the both one of the quietest and loudest people I have ever met in my entire life. Because you don't make yourself present until you feel like you really have to, and when you do, by God, no one is stopping you. You are an absolutely unbelievable force for what you believe in, and I cannot be more proud of you and all of the things that you've done and let me do with you. I'm gonna make you cry. Listen, I do it every time I'm in a show with you. But it's true. Like anytime I think of a movement or a wrong that's been done or something that needs to be spoken about, you are one of the first people I see in these spaces talking about it, being loud about it, being the voice that says, oh, you're not going to do anything? Well, then I'm going to do it all. Have I done it before? No, but I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to make it happen. I'm going to find out how to make it work. And you do, because you surround yourself with beautiful people who want to see you succeed. So,
Don't make me kick you off this call, Maria.
listen, I'll just sit in the chat and scream at you. I'll start sending you video messages.
Thank you so much.
And I think we're about there. We've been here for 2 hours. It's been a great conversation. It's always a delight and an honor to be able to sit down and talk to you guys. It's been a long weekend. Raul, thank you so much for putting this together. Thank you to everyone who was involved on this convention happening. Every panel has a huge mark on the people that are able to listen to it and to see themselves reflected on it. There's a lot of work to still do. There's a lot of time in front of us. Let's do the best that we can. We're gonna do a round just to say where we can find each one of you individuals, and then we're about ready to wrap it up. So I'm gonna start in a different order now, just because I want to. So Claudia, say your goodbyes.
Goodbye. Hi, I'm Claudia. I go by Cy Morgan or Morgan Citarion, or on the internet. I am currently sitting on my bum all day playing The Witcher. But this year we have the Latine Lounge in Gen Con, where we're gonna run games in English and Spanish. We have PAX Unplugged at the end of the year, where we also will be running D&D in Spanish, and we have things throughout the year, and absolutely expect another panel on asexuality. PAX Unplugged at least for now. And yeah, that's it. If you want to talk about asexuality and stuff, please add me on Twitter. I would really like to talk about this all day, every day. Add me. Bye.
Maria.
Hello. I want to thank everyone who was on this panel. Robo, I could say even more things, but I know that she will stop me. But I want to say a specific thank you to Mike and Claudia, because it was literally because of you two that I was able to connect to. So you started the three of you. I'm gonna just hang on a second. This is my time to say goodbye, and I'm gonna do it my way. The three of you, I don't know if you can see how big your footprint is. Because between the three of you, there has been so many things that have started and people being so inspired to do things. Me, one of them. Because you gave us opportunities, because you gave us a voice and a platform and a space to feel like we could stand up and do things and feel like we don't have to hide who we are or what we're doing because of X, Y, or Z. Y'all are absolutely astronomical in what you're doing and what you continue to do. So I said it already to Robo, so you get it a second time, but like I'm infinitely proud of each and every one of you for making the ripples that you've started. They are turning into waves, and I am so excited to see where they go. Anyway, you can find me on the internet at Happy Capster. I'm a variety streamer on Twitch. I make YouTube content, TTRPG content, and I'm a performer on various channels such as Only Play Wizards and Waffles Maple Syrup. You can also follow Goblin Society Games, which is a TTRPG production that I co-founded with my spouse and our friend Joe, that has a bunch of stuff, including the Kobold Grinder, which was run in Spanish for the first time back in Gen Con, which is super, super cool. And yeah, I'm doing a lot of things this year, so like, check it out. That's me. I'm done.
And Robo, let's go.
Hey, you go first so I can close it.
So you can find me on Twitter as the Mike Valles. I normally post in there about things related to TTRPGs. I love them. I think they're a bridge to help out other people and to have a shared experience. I also, with Claudia, am running the Latine Lounge in Gen Con. This is a great space that was provided to us based on the work that we've done around the PAX convention circuit. We did East, West, South, and Unplugged running games in Spanish. Gen Con wanted to have a presence of the Latine community, and we went and did it. So we had a really good year last year. We did a bunch of things, and this year we're coming back. If you are interested in participating, collaborating, if you create content or participating in creating games or just want to go and run games, get with us. We're happy to have everyone. And we'll be in Big Bad Con. We'll be in PAX Unplugged. Big Bad Con, big thing. If you can, if you are somebody from the community, please make the space to go over there. It's a lot of beautiful people. It's a great convention, how it's run, how it's built together, and how it's it incorporates a lot of different identities and people from the community. And that's about it. You'll see me around. I do some stuff here and there. Try to participate and collaborate, and some of it will be coming up this year. So check it out. and take care of yourself.
Thank you, Mike. Now it's my turn to make you all cry. That was my whole thing. Maria, I already told you that you are the one who inspires me a lot because you are incredible and you just raise us up. You do a lot of things and you are incredible. You make us feel more at home because you're just an incredible human who just makes us feel loved and accepted wherever there's Maria. You make that space a very special and great feeling and a very loving space. Mike, güey, te quiero mucho. Um,
Gracias.
Te quiero mucho, mucho.
Yo te
Neta
quiero.
que. I'm sorry. I love you so much, Mike. A lot of things that I've done is because you are constantly supporting me. You're constantly telling me about how to make this space better. And a lot of my stuff is because you have started the spark. You are incredible human. You are loving. You are supporting. You are such an amazing individual. And finally, Claudia.
No.
See, um, you were the spark, Claudia. You were the, as Maria said, you were the spark that started this whole AceCon. We owe it all to you because you made the panel and PAX. You started the spark. You make all the you made the table, you had this incredible conversation, and you made a lot of people see themselves and they just they just felt seen. And this AceCon was all because of you. I started this because I was inspired because of you. So I just wanted to say that. And finally, you can find me at Ttrpg. I'm sorry. I'm not gonna cry. I'm not gonna cry. And
Do
finally,
it. Feel your feelings. You told us to do that, so do it.
yes, but you, not me.
Nah. What you say in your own house, you also have to do.
Listen, and you can find me at Ttrpg on Twitter, Twitch, and Hive. There's a lot of stuff happening. There's gonna be AceCon Part 2 later this year, but that's gonna be all TTRPGs. So expect us playing Monster Cards, playing Lord of the Rings, playing Vampire, Werewolf, D&D, what a Pathfinder, a lot of Pathfinder. So just expect us, all Ace people, playing our characters however we want and just being Ace. So thank you so much to everyone. Thank you so much for all the people involved in this community, in this event, to everybody, all the moderators, to Jordan Lee, who was killing it as being the moderator. I couldn't done this without her. To every single of the moderators, Strike, Vancouver by Night. Thank you all so much. And that's it, everybody. We'll see you all later this year. So, bye.